Alright, I just want to do a little follow-up video. I made a video about strength training versus bodybuilding, and of course one guy was like, what are you doing? This is are you still preaching? I guess people put you in a box. They're like, you're Jesse the street preacher. What are you doing making a video about weight training and weightlifting? And it's like, that's just how you do social media and how you do regular content. Whatever you're doing, you film. Whatever you're studying, you make a video about. Like, that's just part of content creation. And of course, I don't belong in a box. Now that I'm 40 years old, I'm making health and fitness a priority. Of course, I'm still street preaching. I mean, that's who I am. That's what I do. But I'm also, interested in being, healthy and living long, so I could be there for my kids, for my grandkids. You can't do ministry if you die before your time because you didn't take care of your body. I don't want to be just one of these preachers that just gets fat and lazy as he gets older. And the older I get, the stronger I want to be. And so, I'm studying human anatomy, and studying weightlifting and bodybuilding and reading books and watching videos. One thing I wanted to elaborate on as a follow-up to the video that I already made, and the video I made was about the different categories. There's weightlifters who are strength trainers, and then they're involved in strength training, and then there's bodybuilders who just want the physique, and there's different workouts for the different categories. One uses heavy weights with low reps, and the other uses more moderate weights with higher reps. And usually people choose one or the other. And my thing is that you can do both. There's benefits to both. And so what I wanted to elaborate on was what they call hypertrophy, which is the growth of the body. If you do heavy weights with lower reps, then the type of hypertrophy that you're triggering or stimulating is called myofibrillar hypertrophy. Myofibrillar hypertrophy is what the muscle fibers are actually made up of. And to get stronger, you need an increase in the strength and size and density of those myofibrillars of your muscle fibers. And that will, give you strength, but not necessarily the physique. A lot of people look at me and they think, you don't look like a guy who can bench, 220. But I can, even as a beginner, I'm benching 220. I don't have that bodybuilder physique, but I've always had, very dense muscles. And so there's a density to the muscles that don't necessarily correspond with physique. And so if you watch some of these, the world's strongest men competitions, those guys don't have the physiques. A lot of them look like fat. In fact, I was watching the Arnold strongman competition last night with my family on YouTube because that was going on. These guys are lifting heavy logs, they're lifting heavy rocks, and my daughters are like, those guys are fat. Dad, are you going to be fat like those guys? Those guys look fat, because they don't have the physique. Of course, they're just eating lots of food to build up body mass, to build up, because they don't care if they're getting fat along with getting the muscle. They're just focused on building their mass. But heavy weight training creates an increase in the myofibrillars in the body. Then you have the bodybuilders who focus more on moderate weights but higher reps, and that creates a physique because it increases what's called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And so sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is an increase in the sarcoplasm of the muscle. The muscle has water and glycogen, which is the energy of the muscle. And when you're doing high reps, you're depleting, the muscle of its glycogen. And so it compensates by increasing its glycogen storage and increasing its sarcoplasmic storage. So there's guys who look like, they should be super strong, but they're not. They have the physique, but they're not necessarily lifting heavy weights. I learned that growing up is sometimes the guys who are strong don't look strong, and sometimes the guys who look strong are not strong. And you can have big guys, but a lot of them have just an increased water retention. They got big old biceps that are just full of of water and glycogen, and they don't have that muscle density. You know, if you touch their biceps, it's squishy. It's big, but it's squishy. You know, that's that water retention, that glycogen. It's, you know, a guy like Dorian Yates, who trained using high intensity training with Mike Mentzer. He was using heavy weights. He was the first bodybuilder that really introduced a new category or explanation called density. He was the first bodybuilder that really had a density of muscle, and that comes from those heavy weights, the myofibrillars. So those are the two types of hypertrophy. You have myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is what you get from strength training, and then you have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is what you get from the typical bodybuilding. And originally my thinking was, you know, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is junk. I mean, who wants muscles full of liquid? You know, like the whole point of muscle is practical strength, so that as you get older, you can, you know, open up jars of pickles. I mean, you can lift furniture and move. Like, you know, the point of muscles is practical strength. And so who wants muscles full of liquid? You know, so I was all about just lift heavy weights. Why would you do high reps unless you're just ego lifting, trying to show off a physique? But on the other hand, you know, I could use an increase in energy. Maybe one of the reasons I've battled with like fatigue and low energy is because my body's always had very dense muscles, but I don't seem to have a lot of sarcoplasm storage. I don't have a lot of glycogen. Maybe that's why I've battled fatigue for a long time. So I started introducing more high reps into my workouts in addition to the heavy. So you don't have to pick one or the other. You can do both, and then you get a more well-rounded workout. So what I do, I'll do 2 or 3 sets of heavy weights, followed by then 1 or 2 sets of high reps. Sometimes I'll just finish a exercise by doing as many reps as I can of a lighter weight for that. So whatever exercise I'm doing, whether it's an isolation exercise or a compound exercise, I'm doing heavy first and then high rep after that. Now there is at least one group of weightlifters or bodybuilders, or I don't know what you would want to call them, but one category called powerlifting, which has kind of merged both, where they think you should do a hybrid of both. So they'll do the heavy deadlifts, the heavy squats, the heavy bench presses, which are your compound exercises, but then they'll do isolation exercises of higher reps, that give you more of that physique. And so they'll do the bicep curls or the tricep extensions or whatever, which are isolating a certain muscle, and they'll do higher reps for that. But my workout's a little bit different because I'm doing heavy and high rep hybrid for whatever exercise I'm doing. So if I'm doing deadlifts, I'll go heavy on the deadlifts, and then I'll go high reps on the deadlifts. If I'm doing the bench press, I'll go heavy on the bench press, and then I'll do high rep on the bench press. And then for the isolation exercises, the same thing. I'll do the heavy bicep curls, followed by the moderate weight but high rep bicep curls. So I'm just doing a hybrid of both. And I think after the workout was all done, I feel much better doing both. You certainly get that pump when you do the high reps, and that's not necessarily an indicator of a good workout, but it certainly does feel like you're accomplishing something. But the idea is just to increase both the myofibrillars in the muscle fiber, which will give you that muscle density and muscle strength, and increase the sarcoplasm inside the muscle, which will give you endurance, it'll give you energy, and it'll give you the physique too. The physique, it doesn't hurt to have a nice physique, especially, I'm going out on the streets and preaching, sometimes getting into confrontational situations with people. It can be helpful to have a physique. Growing up, I was always a smaller kid. It which is probably why I got into so many street fights, because people always underestimated me. I had been in my life, I've been in 28 street fights, fist fights that I can remember. There's a few more that, like I was telling my wife a story about this fight, but I couldn't remember if I was actually in it or not, because it was with a group of friends and we were drunk, and I'm not sure if I jumped in or not. That might have been fight number 29 that I just can't remember. But there's 28 that I can actually remember for sure. And I won 18 of those. I was a good street fighter. I had strength, I just didn't show it. But I always said, to these big guys would sometimes be like, oh, you think you could take me? And I'm like, well, how many fights have you actually been in? I said, a guy like you has probably never been in a fight because you've never needed to. You look so big, people don't fight you. And that's true. But size doesn't really matter in an actual street fight. It might deter a street fight. Guys will decide in the first 2 or 3 seconds whether they want to fight you or not. They'll just look you up and down. They'll see if you look big or not, intimidating or not, and then they'll make a decision whether they want to fight you or not. And if you look big and intimidating, you usually haven't been in any street fights in your life. But it's not really size that determines the outcome of a fight, it's speed. If you're training for fighting, you're training explosiveness. If you want to win a street fight, you need to explode. And so it's a question of speed, of timing, and of targets. I mean, if you give a quick punch to the throat, that'll end a fight pretty quickly. And that's just a question of speed, timing, and targeting. And so it's not always the big guy who wins the fight, but it's the big guy who doesn't have to fight. So having a physique, the whole point of this rabbit trail is that having the physique, doesn't hurt a street preacher who's going out street preaching. And guys are sizing you up to see if they want to challenge you or attack you or fight you. So sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is not as useless as I originally thought. I completely dismissed it originally as just ego lifting for physique. But I could certainly use more energy, more endurance, and a little bit more appearance doesn't hurt either. So anyways, that's my follow-up video. I just wanted to elaborate more on the 2 types of hypertrophy and the 2 types of training that targets that. The third type of training that I mentioned was training past failure. So you use your heavy weights with lower reps, then you use your high rep with moderate weights, and then there's training past failure, which I mentioned in my past video, where you're using assisted reps or controlled negatives or static holds. Just holding the leg extension or even holding the bench press. That does something physiologically to the body. It increases strength, tendon strength as well, and joint strength as well. And that also creates these micro tears in the muscle. That type of training past failure, is a myofibrillar hypertrophy. It might be a little bit of both, but primarily it's a myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is strength, which is, in my mind, what it's all about. You're getting, I think a lot of people, they train in their 20s or 30s or in their teens. I never really did much training. I did martial arts as a young teen, and so that's push-ups and sit-ups. And then when I was locked up as a teen, we did a lot of, I did a lot of push-ups. I'd read a chapter in a book, and then I'd have to do 50 push-ups, read a chapter in a book, and then do 50 push-ups, and you're doing hundreds of push-ups a day. And, that was all I did as a teen. But I didn't weight train in my 20s or 30s because I wasn't a part of athletics. I wasn't a football player. My sport was street fighting, but I gave that up when I, came to the Lord. I didn't go to college, so there's no, I never went to the weight room in high school. I barely went to high school. I dropped out of high school, but even when I was attending there, I didn't really attend there because I was too busy, drinking and drugging outside of school. I barely went to school. But I feel like, weight training is kind of wasted on the youth. It's like, I never trained in my 20s or 30s. I never felt I needed to. I had a natural strength, and I was still growing anyways. And of course, it's a good time to train because your body's full of human growth hormone and testosterone and all that. But I feel like it's as you get older, that's when you really need to train. Now that I'm 40 years old, they say you're going to lose 1 or 2% muscle mass a year unless you counteract it with weight training. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm 40 years old. Now is the time I really need to, focus on some weightlifting to counteract the effects of aging, and so I don't lose muscle mass, but I gain it. So I feel like weight training is kind of wasted on the youth. And a lot of guys who do train through their 20s or 30s, by the time they get to their 40s, their joints are having all sorts of pain. Their elbow pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, and now they can't lift like they used to. So I feel like I've saved my joints for such a time as this. I want to be fit and healthy and training through my 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, even in my 70s and 80s. I want to be that old man who's fit and healthy and active, and can still squat and bench press like a champion. So that's the idea. Now that I need it, now that I'm older, now I'm doing it. So, anyways, this is just how social media works. If you want to create regular content, you just need to record whatever you're doing in your life. So right now I'm focused on health and prioritizing that, studying that. So make some videos about it. I'm also working on this mission base down in Galveston. I guess I could be making some videos on that, because I'm tiling and doing floors and even framing and electrical and plumbing. Maybe I could start making some videos about that too. So the idea is just film your life and what you're doing. Of course, I'm still filming, still doing ministry and traveling and preaching, and I need to make some new content for that. I still have a hard drive full of old videos that I want to get online too. I think I probably have another 400 or 500 videos of ministry that I want to get back online. And I don't always have a good internet connection, so I'm not just regularly uploading those videos. But that is also on the to-do list. But anyways, just wanted to make a quick video on the 2 types of hypertrophy and how you can do a workout that does both. And especially, it's not just I think men especially, should stay strong and fit, but it's not just the men, it's the women too. And my wife, she's very busy with the homeschooling, but she wants to start prioritizing her health as well. We're getting older, and we know a lot of people who have been getting sick and even dying. People our age, I know people even younger than me who have had health issues. Not just people who overdosed on drugs. I have plenty of friends who overdosed and died on drugs, or even friends who committed suicide. But now I'm at the age where people are also having health issues. Multiple people my age that I know who are battling cancer, or who have died of cancer and other things. So just, being fit. And they say for women too, they should lift heavy weights for the strength, because strength is practical. But of course, women don't want to become big and bulky like bodybuilders. But the fact is, women don't have the testosterone that men have. You can still lift weights that are heavy to you as a woman, and build up strength, which is relative to you as a woman, and not worry about getting big and bulky like a man, because you don't have the physique of a man, you don't have the hormones of a man. Women should still be strong in their own way, so they should still lift heavy weights and eat right. It's not, that's the other thing, it's not just the weightlifting, it's the healthy eating. So I'm prioritizing lean protein and a good healthy portion of vegetables, and then also carbs. I didn't cut out the carbs because that's how the body gets glycogen for the muscles, which is the energy. And especially if you're doing sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that's going to increase your glycogen storage. Well, then you're going to need to increase some of your carb intake to fill those glycogen storage within the muscle. So, but it should be a good healthy portion of carbs, vegetables, and lean protein. I also do a lot of fasting. I do prolonged fasting, maybe 3 days up to 7 days sometimes, and then also shorter fasting where I'm doing sometimes just 1 or 2 meals a day, but a light breakfast and a big dinner. And just because I'm on a cut where I want to burn belly fat, and then once I get to the body fat percentage I want, I'll switch to a bulk, continuing the workout, so that all those surplus calories will go to the places that I want them to go. But all right, I'm rambling now. I'll talk to you guys later.